We're live. We're live.
We're live. Welcome, everybody. What an exciting moment. So welcome to Gaia Warriors presents The Gathering of the Tribes in association and partners with Sacred Honor Educational Fellowship. It's really an honor to be here with all of you. I would like all of us to just take a breath so we could all find a coherence and a synergistic field. So just dropping into our hearts right now, closing your eyes, just taking a deep breath, inhale, and then exhale. Allowing yourself to drop into this moment, allowing all of your thoughts to melt away, allowing yourself to feel present in your bodies and feel the beautiful energy of all the people on this call, allowing that energy to open up your hearts. And I'd really like to just start off with a gratitude prayer, a gratitude for every single one of you here today, a gratitude prayer for our beautiful earth, which is why we've come here, our Divine Mother, and a gratitude for the Maidu people, for they are the people of the land that we are on right now. So just acknowledging the first peoples of this land and thanking them for taking care of the land so beautifully. Well, thank you so much. So I really just wanted to start off with... I really wanted to start off with saying that really all of us are Indigenous to this planet, and we all have different stories, we all have different walks of life, but at the end of the day, we all have the same values, we all have the same hearts, we all care for our mother, we all care for our relatives, the animals and the plants on this planet. And so this call is for us to come together to see how we can unite as a people and share the codes with each other. For if you look at the colonization that has happened on this planet, the European people, they got colonized 1,000 years ago, and we've seen how it's ravaged that race of people and how displaced they are, how disconnected they are from the mother. The codes have been forgotten about how to care for the land, how to be in harmony with the land. And so really we're here today to help the first peoples of the land that we're on right now, for they've only been colonized maybe like 100 years ago. So they still have these codes, these ancient wisdom codes that are so imperative for us to remember, for us to record, for us to share the stories with the children, with the 7 generations moving forward. So I really just want us to remember that all of us are Indigenous, and this colonization that has happened to all peoples on the earth. And this is an opportunity for us all to come together and to share these codes. For the first peoples of this land, they still have the codes of how to be sovereign on the land, how to grow the food, how to be in harmony with the natural law of the land, of the earth. And we've forgotten these codes. So together today, we can share these codes with each other. For the people here with me today, the Europeans, we have figured out some of these codes with the man-made colonial system. And with these codes that we can share with each other, we can then bring back the land to the right people, to the rightful stewards of this earth. Because that's what we need. We need to take the land back from the corporations, back from those who are greedy, who do not care about the earth, and bring it back to the right people, the first peoples, the natives of this land, who can really take care of the earth, who can really steward it and show us and teach us how to be one with all of our relatives, all of the animals, all of the plants on this land. So it's really what we're doing here is uniting together as a people for the first time. And it's just what we're doing here is not just a call, it's a movement for us to come together for the first time and unite as a tribe, one family on this earth. So I'm really so honored for all of you that heard the call to be here with me today, to be here with all of us that have this strong call in your heart to do something different, to be part of a change where all of us are honored, where all of us have access to clean water and food, where we can tend to our forests and our rivers, where we can live in harmony with all of our animal relatives. It's so important that we bring this power back to we, the people. So I really would like to just remind everyone that the sovereignty movement, the sovereignty with the land, the sovereignty with the man-made law, really the sovereignty comes from within first. And it's a conviction of knowing who we are and that we are all God's children, and that the sovereignty first and foremost comes from within, that we can stand with conviction, knowing who we are, and that this comes from within. It's a spiritual practice of sovereignty that comes from within. And then secondly, we use this to how we can treat each other, how we can relate to each other, how we can all treat each other as equals. We have more in common than the differences that have been imposed upon us. A lot of us think that we have so many differences that we can't relate, but that's just the system that's imposed, that's tried to divide and conquer us. But at the end of the day, we all have so many commonalities. We all have the same desires. So during this call, I'd really like us to remember that we're here to honor each other and to take radical self-responsibility of our words. For everything is being recorded, so just have awareness with what you say. This is going to be shared with the world. And at the same time, I'm asking that everybody have grace with each other, patience and understanding and kindness, that we're trying to find a central language that is spoken with our hearts, and that the language right now, some of the words, we all have different meanings with different words, so try not to take offense to any of the words spoken. Listen to the intention behind the words, listen to the heart spoken behind the words, because it's going to be a new movement to get a language that we can all agree and relate upon. So I just want to first start with naming all the tribes that are on this call that I'm so ecstatic about. And so we have, with honor and grace, to receive the Rotenoshoni tribe, also bear with my pronunciation, the Wolf Clan, the Mohawk, the Turtle Clan, the Burr Clan, the Bear Clan, the Maidu, the Hopi, the Cherokee, the Shawnee Delaware, the Dene, the East Lake Tribe, the Yakima, and the Shannock people. So thank you all for being here. We also are very lucky to have beautiful Indigenous representatives from Costa Rica, Ecuador, Argentina, and Guatemala. So really beautiful, I think, to see this eagle and condor prophecy coming together, where we're uniting as tribes on the American lands.
I think there's probably more actually as attendees that won't necessarily have a voice today, just for clarity. So you don't think that these are the only ones that are in attendance.
Right.
There's a lot more on the call.
Right. Yeah, so actually leading to that point, if you're in the audience, if you could write on the chat where you're from, we're very curious and we'd love to see all our brothers and sisters and seeing where in the world that you're coming from. If you could just say your name, write in the chat, that would be really great. And we're going to be sharing an email address with you guys. And with that email, you can send any questions and you can then give us your email. So if you want to stay up to date with this movement and with the calls moving forward, that will be on the screen, shared on the screen. You can see it there. So I'm going to introduce our first speaker, which I'm very excited to introduce. And that is our chief, Don, from the Maidu tribe. And we are on his land. So this protocol is for Don to speak first. Thank you, Don.
Sasakari Niki Heskum. That's how are you, my friends? Welcome to the Sayakumni, land of the Sayakumni. It's a great honor for me to be here to sit at this table with you folks. I want to thank Happy for getting me out of the house. So protocol is Joey next? Okay.
I'll introduce him next.
Yeah. Okay, I think he goes next, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to say, Don?
Yeah, anything else?
Well, yeah, there's a lot I want to say, but I think protocol is that he should do a prayer over the.
Right. Yeah. And then we'll go back to you after that.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
So let's introduce Tehoronia, who will be translating for Ernest David, who is the Wolf Clan chief, and he'll be sharing with us the words that come before us, grounding into gratitude and humility and acknowledging our grief. Thank you so much.
Apologize that
My Loyane, my chief, Ernest David, is not able to make it. He's not feeling good. Everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. So he asked me to do the Honda Kariwatiko. I know we're from out east. We have 3 guys with me, and so they Happy asked me to do the opening for the meeting to set the pace for everybody, so we can collect our minds as one, and that we're gonna put our tents in a good place, our hearts. So I'd like to begin. This is going to be spoken in the Gaia language. Monikati wahe ne moto se to wata hon stios ne ngari wesa ne dokara na kawana ke na hota na chini kanka ne na hota na chini ka kwani ne aso hanto ne chini kanka ne kanu ana tusla ne chini ke ne ungwa supa andana ke ne chini na hota ne chini ka kwani ne aso waite ne chini ska ne aso waite dana ne chini so wanto skana I don't want to and then a genius Nachi in a hotel Nachi Akakweni ne as a 100 genius ne Gika ne no hotel ne Sukoya Tison ne Toyatunio ne Kanto ne no Honzat and then a genius ne a Grego ne Gio Weso ne Gina ne de Songwawi ne Ungwa Suma and then a ne Yoli one of Kakweni ne a Grego ne Ungwa Su and Aizawa Hunter engineer and what way noon in the Guanaguna, done as it was yarn to tea in the engineers, ne on the hotel, Akakweni, ne we were near to Guanaguna. And so we all say to when I get done, when we say we wrap up the minds, so that way we're in agreement, and I just want to share that with you.
Sure.
And then the oil, engineer, ne they do want to do, ne chinakanka, ne it in start. Ne giga ne genius ne yoeso ne genius ne angwasariko hakitete ne genius ne yoi hoana ne itinista ne no hunsate dan no hoda yeli wanya takwa dan ne genius ne we wa ni heto kwani gula andana de tieto mona to ne no hoda ne chinakanka ne genius ne onu kwa sua ne genius ne ohunde sua ne genius ne Gaia dasla sua ne jinio ne Gaia dosla sua ne goeko ne kakwa sua ne goeko ne ataka hasla ne chiliwa ne ongwa sua ne kasta slowana ne jinio ne akahalata ne ongwa sua ne akakweni dana ne yoliwa ne wiwa haini ngong kwa gula dana ne tie to mara to ne tie to ne china kanka ne chinies ne it ne ukura su ne dana ne china kaya ne on hote ne chinies ne ohanda ne wata ne chinies ne koeko ne chiga koeni ne wi wa ni to kwa gula dana de tie to mara to ne on hote ne china kanka ne Delio sun ne chinies ne no hoda ne wakakawana ne chinies ne oskunuta ne da hasla ne chiliwa ne ongosua ne wiwa ne to kwa gula andana de tie to mara to ne no hoda ne chinakanka ne kaeli ni kawirake ne la wane ne leotakis dano ne chinies ne de to mara to ne chinakanka ne etis ne latuelas ne de hatala wista ne chinakanka ne dana hatana ne chinakanka ne wansate andana ne wi wahi ne do kwa ni gula andana de tie to mara to ne no hota ne chinia se do sia kanka kwa kalakwa ne ti swate dana yotali hansa ne kanto ne no wansate dana ne tie to mara to ne do kwa ni gula dana ne tie to mara to ne no hota ne chinakanka ne ikisut ne wanite na asantana ne ti swate Tana ne o na hoda ne china dunkwa ne o chisto kalunya ne ka kwani as akatso ne ta ka kwani ne jinia ne wi wahe ni do me do na kwa gumla tana ne di to ngona tu ne sukoya tiso ne jinia ne sukono nunkwa ne na ongwa sua ne na kwego ne na hwasira tana ne jinia so na hoda ne ka kwani ne yari huana ne china ka ne jinia ne kaya no stasla ko ne jiri riwa ne jini kankaya ne riwa konyasla konolong kwasla kahanga akatawanya ne jini ne kanto ne no homanjate ne jini sta ne no homanjate ndana ye wi wa he ni do wa gumla so I just wanted to say a little interpretation what I was talking about. Started out with today, this evening, that we'll pull our minds together as one, and that we'll direct and we'll talk about these things that the Creator had put here for us to have, and that He made it so that the earth was here, and that when the earth she supports our feet, she's always been solid ground, and that we always hope that she will be solid ground and continue to support us. And she's the Creator, and her will give us the things that she put here on earth, and that for us to have, and that we can enjoy that. And we talk about all the plants, all the medicines, all the plants that we grow in our garden that sustain us and give us food, that gives our body strength. Give thanks to the animals, all the wild animals, and the deer. That's our food. And think about all the trees. We think about all the stirring winds that travel about around Earth to keep it cool during the hot summer days, and to circulate the air. And that we also think about the grandfathers, the thunders that come, and they bring the rain to moisten the earth, and that they charge up the grounds for us so we can have good food and good plant life around us. And we think about we send our thoughts to our elder brother, the sun, who is shining bright during the day, and that he provides warmth for us when we get cold, and that light is shining upon us, and that we are grateful for those things. And then we think about the Mother Earth, the grandmother moon, or that her light that shines at night, and that also that the stars that are stuck on the sky, and that is like her jewelry, and that they shine to her, and that we call them our grandmother too, the star. And we think about those things at that time, and we think about what the Creator put here, and the peacemaker He brought about the good message of peace, and that we be respectful, and we be kind, and that we know what love is, and this is where we're going to put our intent tonight, and that we're going to have our thoughts, that we're thinking about these things, and that we'll be all one mind, and that we're going to put these thoughts in a good place within our hearts. And that's as far as I got. And that was the Thanksgiving prayers. Recall we do this to gather everybody's mind together as one, and that we're gonna experience the power that the good mind brings as we're doing these things. And I want to share too a little bit of a story about one of the relatives back here. We talked about this story when we were approaching other warriors in the forest on the other side of the mountain. They were coming down, and the group of guys would holler out, "Skana the one that done you, Skana the one that hike it." And we wait until we listen to the other relatives on the other side of the mountain. We listen for their words, and then they get a little fearful because they think somebody's going to come when they don't answer that call. They say, "Are you at peace?" And so they answer back, "Oh, it's gonna go." So that means that we can ease our hearts, and that we don't have to feel threatened, and we don't have to feel fear, and that we're gonna meet and rejoice. So no matter how small the gathering, if there's 2 people, or if there's 20, there's 40 people. So we come together, and this is what we do. We're going to and this is what we do. We're going to give greetings and thanks to each other. So we support each other with good thoughts and good intent, and that whatever we do today, that this evening, that it'll all be good, and that the Creator is with us, and our Mother Earth is listening to us. They are a witness for us. So that way we can be thankful. And that's all I want to share at this time. Thank you, Donato. My name is Deholunio. I forgot. Joey David. I'm from Arkansas, Wolf Clan.
Aho, thank you so much for that beautiful prayer. Thank you. So I just have to remind the speakers so that we can keep on time. I do have a little bell that I'm going to be ringing in case anyone gets a little carried away. We have many things to share today, and I really appreciate everybody's stories. But we're going to have to just keep it, at a good time frame, and then we're going to keep this movement growing, keep these calls growing, so we can extend the time and see how we can go on next time. But for this first one, I'm going to just keep us all in check. So the next speaker is our lovely Lawrence Laughing, who is from the Painted Turtle people, and he's going to give us the introduction to the call and setting the tone of the call. Thank you, Happy.
Oh, yeah. So, good to see everybody and everybody out there. The reason I guess I put this call out is been a long road for us, the Indigenous people, the Native people, and what we believe is our sovereignty, and exercising that throughout my whole life and before the generations before. So, coming from where we come from, Akwesasne, Ganyankehaga, our clans, our people, all that we experienced back home. And then traveling across Turtle Island and seeing what our brothers and sisters and the other Indigenous people, their trouble, what they go through. And then coming here to Nevada City and meeting the constitutional sovereigns and realizing that that we need to talk to each other. We need to share our stories. We need to hear our experiences, because I believe we're kind of like a coin. And this coin, we are on one face of that coin. And the constitutional sovereigns are the other face of this coin. And that coin is called domination. And so we see one side, but we don't see the other. So I began to look at it that we really need to melt this coin and see each other, hear each other. I think most of us are born here on Turtle Island, so we come from here. We need to put our differences aside. We need to use our heart and our feelings once again. We need to really listen to each other, because it's we, the people, who are here on Turtle Island. And I recognize that. So to put out a call like this and to have so many respond, I'm so grateful, so thankful. And that I'm not going to say too much. I would rather listen to everyone, and to remind everyone we have to use, we are on a short time. The greeting that the Holunya gave is actually like 2 hours long where I come from. And that's normal. That's normal. And we do it again at the end, whenever people gather together. So I asked the Holunya to condense it very, very much. And I asked everyone if we could shorten and really think about what we're about to say. The question that I have for everyone is, what truly does sovereignty mean to us from our perspective? And to share that, because we all have that experience with it here. We all have some kind of, we've all put our energy into that. So what is sovereignty? What does that word mean? How does it relate to us as people across Turtle Island? And what does it relate to the world? So I have just that, so simple, just a question. So I would like to, if everyone can keep that in mind. And once again, thank you all. Aho.
Aho.
Aho. Thank you for your words. So our next speaker is Michael Joseph. He is part of the Sacred Honor Educational Fellowship. And it's these two men next to me that helped us build this whole call, this whole movement. So I'm really grateful he's going to give us a brief talk about the movement at large around commerce and contract binding.
Thanks, Tess, and Happy. Thank you for the vision. It brings us here today. Yeah, great honor to be here. There's a lot going on right now in the world. Actually, quite exciting times amongst these amazing people. I'm so grateful and so honored. And I really wish I could see the screen better to see folks that are on the call and the kind of comments that are coming in and where other people are coming from. I look forward to reviewing this and checking out where folks are, where they are. And so one of the things that I'm most excited about and what I have been witnessing in the past 4 years, it seems for whatever reason, there's a higher vibration going on in consciousness, or the globalists are just making a bunch of mistakes because they're pushing too hard, or it's a combination of many things. But people seem to be seeing through that veil better now than they ever have been before. And I've traveled across this country quite a bit in the past 4 years, meeting a lot of people and speaking in front of folks. And to see the gleam in the eyes of curiosity, they're feeling the encumbrances, or we all feel the encumbrances, but then now they're starting to ask the questions about, what is this feeling I'm having? And why do I feel like my rights are not being honored? Where's the Constitution in all this? And the thing that's been so fascinating to go through and discover is that you start digging down that rabbit hole, and you start finding out that we're in a system that we're being controlled, if you will, or navigated through commerce and contracts. So just to kind of offer an example, and I'm sure many of you are aware, I just love to offer examples, because even folks that are pretty clever and aware, sometimes we hear things in a certain way, and it opens us up in a way that we weren't considering. So what's happening a lot in this country, in the United States, we have the commercial system. I think most of us are aware of it at this point. We have the corporate system. We have the United States of America, the Republic. All right, we have a foundational element that was brought into the land, really over the original people. And then we have the United States Federal Corporation. All right, that's the corporate fiction that many of us have found ourselves into it unwittingly and unknowingly. And that's the system that a lot of us are referencing at this point. When we say system, when we're talking about the globalists, we're talking about these corporate fictions that we found ourselves ensnared in. So what happens to a lot of people, and like if they find themselves in front of a judge, if they're in the courtroom, and let's say that the IRS, the great collection agency for the world banks, you find yourself standing in front of the judge and the IRS has claimed you into that court space, and you show up and the judge has documents, let's say they're banking documents, and sent some goons into your home to steal some of your personal belongings so they can use them against you. And you think you're clever and you say, based on the Fourth Amendment, Judge, I want you to dismiss this case under unreasonable search and seizure. And the judge says, well, the Constitution has no place here. And that blows most people's minds. So what's really happening, what the judge isn't saying, is I'm here to compel the performance of a contract that you obviously are not aware that you're in. And that's what we find ourselves in. That's what a lot of the indigenous cultures have found themselves in, encumbrances into contracts. And it's been exciting to talk to people in a simple way just like this, and it gets them to realize that things aren't what we thought they were. We obviously feel it, but now we're starting to be curious and lean into what that feeling actually means. So we find ourselves here today having these conversations from many cultures on this beautiful land to talk about how do we find ourselves away from these encumbrances and find our way back to the land as people? And how do we find ourselves as people again? And that's been such a bizarre challenge. And I get the reason for the challenge. We have been so indoctrinated to the oldest maxim of war, which is divide and conquer. And the system is exquisite at creating these divisional elements between us. And what brings me here today in such an impassioned ways is to help create these bridgeways so we as people of this land can find a way back to us as people and back to the land without encumbrances. So the system itself needs us to animate it. It doesn't exist without our energy, without our currency. So if it needs our currency to exist, who holds the power? Well, we hold the power, obviously. It's just that we've forgotten who we are. So a big part of this movement is about getting back to who we are, remembering who we are, and getting back to our sacred honor. And by virtue of doing that, we will naturally honor our brothers and sisters. So that's a big part of why I'm here today and what I wanted to share. And thanks for giving me a couple of minutes to offer my thoughts.
Thank you so much, Michael. That was powerful. Yeah, really feeling that we hold the power. We are the power. Really just remembering that is so important. I'm going to take a moment to introduce our next speaker, Paul James. He's actually part of our local Nevada County Assembly here in the lands of the Maidu lands. And he's going to tell us the truth about the de facto government and the fraudulent ways in which they have been governing our society. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Jess.
Is Mike?
Is the mic coming through?
There it is.
There we go. Wow. Well, Michael, thanks for that. Michael touched on what many people don't really understand in America. Most people have failed to properly understand what has happened here over the last 150 years. And the Nevada County Assembly has been unpacking it and helping several hundred people understand how we've all been bamboozled. And it's certainly something that has taken a lot of work, but we're at a point right now where we can explain this to the rest of this nation, and that's what we're about to do. I think this is a delicate subject, but the other thing I'd like to bring up before I dive down into what's going on is the truth of the reality of what's going on in this nation today. When we look at the genocide that's gone on in this country, going all the way back to the beginning, and we look at things or events in our history, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, things like the sinking of Lusitania, sinking of the Titanic, an attack on the USS Liberty, events like 9/11, Building 7, what's going on in Gaza right now, the Pentagon attack. There's one common thread, and this is something that people don't really want to talk about, but in fact, it's a reality. There is something that links all of these things, and in fact, what's going on across America right now, which is this invasion, and who's behind it. I'm not going to drill down into it too deeply here. A guy called James Preston of Veterans Today wrote an article in 2014 that exposed a plot, and it was called, the article was widely available, it's called The Incredibly Evil Khazarian Mafia, and it was written in 2014, and it's been widely republished. But sadly, when we go back and start looking at all of these events, when we look at what's going on in America and what's happened over at least 200 years, we find a recurring pattern that there is a particular cult, if you like, that is behind all of these events. And what we've been doing here is helping people unpack this history. And when you go back and look at what happened to America and why America is upside down today, you find that this country, as Michael alluded to just now, is no longer operating as a constitutional republic or a guaranteed republican form of government, which is guaranteed in the Constitution. As Michael rightly pointed out, we're operating under this thing called commerce. And where does that all come from? What you will find when you start to study this is it all goes back to the capture of America and 193 nations that were all incorporated under the Crown Vatican system. And standing behind the Crown, the Vatican, we have the black nobility, Khazarian mafia, etc. And that's just a very sad reality. If you go back even further to 1513, you'll find something out there called the Requiremento of 1513 that tracks back to the Vatican. And that was basically the blueprint for genociding the First Nations of this world. So right now, America is captured, and what the globalists behind this cult are predicting or have plotted is the destruction of this country. So I want to thank Tess for bringing us all together, and Happy, because this is what we need to do now is we need to gather, because we're all brothers and sisters wherever we come from. And we have to recognize these threads through history and turn things around. What is about to happen in the next couple of months, there is going to be a worldwide movement. It's going to be the largest grassroots uprising in the world that will expose some of these realities. And an initiative is about to be launched called Operation Restoration that will be people in common law nations across the world, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, America, Britain, are basically going to be brought together to basically join and link arms and stand up as a sovereign people, as the Declaration of Independence rightly stated. We all are. We're all free and equal. And we're not beholden to any government. We created government in this country to serve us and to protect our unalienable rights. And it got flipped, and it became a commerce system that's traded us and human trafficked us. And that's what's going on right now, and that's what Michael was alluding to. It takes a lot more understanding that I'm going to explain here, but what we need to do right now is educate the people of the world in what actually happened these last 200 years. And that is going to be our mission going forward. So look out for Operation Restoration. And the reason we're all together in this room is because we're all brothers and sisters, and we're all looking for the truth. And I believe we have the story unpacked, and now we need to explain it and get everyone on the same page. So that's our mission here at in this group and at Nevada County Assembly. And with that knowledge, what we've done here is reseated our original abandoned government, which was guaranteed to be a Republican form of government. And that's what needs to happen in every county across this country. So enough of me, I'll pass it back, but that's what we're doing here to help move this conversation forward. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Paul.
Should we take a quick moment to put the email up on the bar so folks on the chat can email where you're coming from? If you're wanting to stay in the loop of these future calls and gain some insights on what's happening, just send us an email through this link or this email. Hopefully it can pop up on the screen.
Yeah, it's on the screen.
It's up. Oh, okay. I obviously can't see it.
Need some glasses there, Michael?
I do, yes. Thank you.
We will be making a mailing list. So if you email that email, we'll make a list and we'll keep you informed and send out resources if you want to contact any of these individual speakers too. So thank you so much, Paul. That actually reminds me of a saying, the worst kind of jail is when you can't see the bars, which is what I think is the spell that we're all under. And this is why we need to educate and empower each other. So that's the main intention of this call. I'd like to introduce the lovely Marcia Ann, who is here on the Maidu lands with us and actually in this table. I was really inspired by talking to Marcia because she was telling me about how the treaties and the law of the treaties actually supersede all law. And Marcia is someone that I rarely see walking her talk and has been in this movement for about 30 years. So she's a massive inspiration. Thank you, Marcia.
Thank you. Yes, I've been definitely walking some talk for about 32 years now, and actually started the inquiry into where we are in the waking up process in full right here in Nevada County in 1982. I started studying with a group that was called the Judge Roger Sherman Society. And understand, I'm a person who quit college because they were going to make me take a history course. And I actually sat with it. For the first 2 years, I got dropped through the loop and I didn't have a counselor. So I just signed up for, this is my story, signed up for what I wanted to learn about. I've always been interested in everything. And so I was studying, and then I finally got a counselor, and they said, well, you're going to take this history course. And I said, I did my Columbo. Wait a minute. I'm paying you, right? And they said, yeah, you're paying me. I said, well, then I'm going to tell you what I'm going to learn. They said, no, you're not. So I said, see you later. And I started taking jobs that paid me to get the knowledge that I wanted to have. And I started out in sciences because that's what was my major, was in the sciences. But as I started getting into I was in a court case and didn't understand why the people who stole my property got arrested, went to jail, and instead of getting my property back, the police said, no, restitution means we sell it at the auction. And so somehow that spurred my curiosity about how the courts work. I went in the courts and I observed and I studied for myself to find out why and how they were doing what they do. And long, 30-year story short, what I see is that whole idea that the consent of the governed really does give the authority to government. Where is that? We've got so much, we're going 100 years, 150 years. And when we walk through the treaties of those 150 years, we see we start from a groundwork of war powers. Since Abraham Lincoln, we've been under executive orders, which is, it's war powers. It's military rule that has been superimposed by all those subsequent constitutions to Abraham Lincoln, where we in our lives don't realize we've been in war powers all our lives. It's been designed by a very careful formula to design our thinking, even our thinking and speaking. In the best of the circles now, we're talking about that government that's out there. It's an illusion. That's why they call it a fiction. It's an illusion. And we keep speaking it, we keep saying, we keep negotiating with it. And that is the energy that drives it. We are the energy, and our thinking is speaking. I was thinking yesterday while I was getting, what the heck do I have to say in a circle like this? You know, I just kind of see me as, you know, I like to cook and I like to garden, and that's how I see myself. I'm not so comfortable out here in this. I'm comfortable in the production and comfortable in making things happen. And I was looking at the telegram, and they're saying, oh, here, take this for healing. Take that for healing. We've got to do some healing. We've got to do some detoxing. We've got to do this. And we're seeing this at a government level where we've got to do the detoxing and the healing. Excuse me. But what if that idea that there's some place to go or something to do to be healed? What if we think we're
Take a swig.
What if we think we're healed? Like right now, in now time. It's not someplace to get to. We're all grieving, all of us. We're grieving the loss of marriages, the loss of children, the loss of businesses, the loss of job. Now we're seeing in the whole world that we're grieving the loss of dream of America. Even in countries that aren't America, that loss of the dream that we are the America that can rise from the ashes is a grief to the whole country right now. And telling the truth about that, the beautiful prayer when we're talking together about coming together with one mind, we put so much emphasis on the mind in our speaking, and all that has been designed by the propaganda that has us speaking. And when we come together as one heart, the mind will follow. The solutions, the way, the path will open up. It like going through the forest, and now there's this bright light through the trees, and you know that's the direction to go. When we come in the first thing we think, and I work with Michael a lot in languaging, and I say, okay, if we say we need it, what's the conversation behind that? It's lacking. We're in need. What if we say, what if we see without any evidence that we have it? We have that expression of our divinity. We have it now. There may not be the evidence in front of us, but so what? So what? We are that we put our attention on. I don't need anything. I look to see out here what's wanted and provide. But it's not out of some lack or some need. We tend to think that, and we have this notion that helping people is a good idea. What's the conversation behind helping people? That they're helpless. We're disempowering by helping. When we assist and we raise them and we bring that frequency that raises their frequency, that's not a help. That is the assistance from the divine, from the heart, bringing that heart into resonance and beating together. And so when we come together in one heart, all the battles and all the struggles and all the paths that we've led to get here only open up the brilliance of that education, of that knowledge, of that coming together for bringing the pieces of each one of our puzzle pieces into the big picture so that it can transform into its full glory.
It's beautiful.
And what I found in this study, started out with the war. Actually, I didn't. I started with a book called The Digest of Divine Law. And so I started taking the divine law and comparing it to what I was seeing. But then I saw the war powers and I saw the treaties that walked up the path to the law of nations. And then I said, well, where did the law of nations come from? And that's how I found the 6 original treaties with all of the global indigenous cultures, the canes of authority, the Wampum Belt treaties, the Peace Pipe treaties, the Noah's Ark treaties, the Palladium of Troy. We still use the Palladium of Troy. Why do we measure gold in Troy ounces? We have the Seals of Solomon that was designed to bring back and heal the divinity of our planet. So, and so now I'm very curious, is there something before these treaties? And if we claim these treaties, what happens to all that garbage that we say is sitting on us underneath it? I say it's a higher vibration, and what we claim is what we give authority.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Oh.
Wow. Marcia, that just gave me chills all down my body. Thank you so much. I really love that. It's really up to us to claim from within our sovereignty. I am free. I am abundant. You know, this is what we need to claim. I am healthy. I have everything that I need at all times. I am supported. So you really using these affirmations and claiming who you are, claiming your spot on the planet. You are divine. So next I'm going to bring up Glenn Fern. He specializes in speaking of the denial of due process, and he's a natural law consultant, and he actually drove all the way from Arizona to be here with us today. So we're really grateful to have you. Thank you, Glenn.
Well, thank you very much. I thank you, Happy, for inviting me, and I'm agreeing with everybody what they're saying here. I wanted to just talk a little bit about international law. A lot of people wonder how international law affects, them. And I would like to point out a couple things. In 1861, the U.S. Army invaded Galveston, Texas, and in 1863, Lincoln asked, excuse me, he asked a guy by the name of Francis Lieber to write a law of war for the U.S. Army. It's called the Lieber Code. It's also called General Orders 100. And Article 1 of the Lieber Code says the physical presence of the Army declares its martial law. And so the fact that the Army is there means you're under our martial law. Now, we're in California right now. And if anybody doesn't know, California was picked up as part of the Treaty of Hidalgo. So that's the war, the Spanish-American War in the 1840s. And Article 2 of the Lieber Code says the martial law doesn't end until there's a specific mention in a treaty of peace or a special proclamation by the commander-in-chief. Well, I can tell you there's been no, in the Treaty of Hidalgo, that is a treaty of peace, but it has to be a specific mention in there. And it doesn't say anything about ending the martial law. And there's been no special proclamations by the commander-in-chief. So that's why you see the police wearing military uniforms with military rank structures. We're under martial law, and it's all over the place. People don't realize that. Then there's the bar. That's another one. That stands for British Accredited Regency. Okay, well, think about that. Regent. What's a regent? A regent is someone who is operating on behalf of the sovereign. So they know that we're sovereigns. The courts have ruled it in numerous cases that the people are sovereign. We're all sovereign. We're all kings and queens. There's lots of court cases that talk about it. And there's even a case called U.S. versus Schooner Amistad. I don't know if anybody knows about this case. This is a case from, I think it was 1845, where the slave ship, where the slaves took over the ship and they killed everybody that captured him except for one guy because they didn't know how to sail. And they said, they kept him alive and they said, take us back to Africa. And the guy sailed in circles off the coast of Virginia until the U.S. Navy found him, and they brought him back and put him on trial for murder. And this case went all the way to the Supreme Court. And so this is slaves, right? Black people. And so the point I want to make here is it doesn't matter what race you are. Anyways, it went to the Supreme Court. There was two arguments. Either they're slave, which is no different than a dog or a cat. A slave is property. And if you're a dog or a cat, you can't commit murder. Or they're free men and they had every right to do what they did. And the Supreme Court said they're free men and they had every right to do what they did. Excuse me. Anyways, so the point is it doesn't matter what race you are, and all you have to do is say the words. And what I have learned is we talked about common law today, and we talked about law of the land and due process of law. You know, the founding fathers, when they wrote the Constitution, the same stuff is going on today that went on that precipitated the War of Independence. In the Causes and Necessities for Taking Up Arms, 1775, by the Continental Congress, it says, the king has extended the courts of admiralty and vice admiralty far beyond their ancient limits to supersede the course of common law and publish and exercise the use of law martial. Okay, so they were doing the same thing. If you read the Declaration of Independence, it's a list of grievances. Okay, and so they said in the very beginning there's a preamble and a postamble, but then there's a list of grievances, and you read those grievances are going on today. And so this is all the same stuff. It's international law. And the thing about international law is it has to be in writing. Okay, it's really Roman law. And so once you understand that, you can use their codes against them. And this is one thing I've learned how to do, is you use their codes against them. They never, ever follow their own codes. And the most powerful thing we can use is the Constitution. Because in the Constitution, in the Fifth Amendment, it says that you have the right to due process of law. Well, in Article 6 of the Constitution, it says that this Constitution shall be the supreme law of the land. The phrase due process of law and law of the land both have the same meaning, and they're talking about common law, okay? And common law has the same meaning as natural law, okay? And so natural law says that if I let go of this cup, it will fall. And so there's even old court cases that say that we have no duty to do anything that the king tells us to do that's in violation of the law of nature, natural law, because the king cannot protect us from the wrath of God that will come upon us if we don't follow natural law. And so there's court cases that talk about that. And so they never, ever follow their own codes. And the codes are actually put into place by legislatures to provide due process of law. So when they don't do it, then what they do is they lose subject matter jurisdiction. And all you need is one issue, and you can defeat any case. And I don't care what case. You know, it says in Article 3 of the Constitution, you're entitled to a trial by jury, okay? In the cause and necessities for taking up arms, that was one of the grievances. It says the king has deprived us of the inestimable privilege of trial by jury. Well, trial by jury is not a jury trial, okay? A jury trial, think about it. What do you do when you jury rig something, okay? That's an emergency thing where you fix something just to get by for the minute. Well, that's what a jury trial is too. And so a trial by jury is where the jury conducts the trial. And so I know people that routinely go into court and demand a trial by jury and tell the judge that the War of Independence was fought over the denial of trial by jury, and I want a trial by jury, and it's not a jury trial. And the jury has to conduct the trial, and they will never give it to you. And the reason is they can't. Under the state codes, they can't give it to you. And so then when they say, well, all we can give you is a jury trial, then all you say is, well, you know, Article 6 of the Constitution says all judges have to have an oath to support this Constitution. And then it specifically says any constitution or law of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. So we don't care about what your state codes say. You have an oath of office to support the federal constitution and my right to a trial by jury. And when you start holding their feet to the fire, all of a sudden the case will disappear. Okay, they'll drop it. And so I can't tell you how many times that's happened. So there's ways that you can get them. And then once you win, once you get that thing dropped, now you can sue their butt off. Okay, so that's what I like doing is I like going after them. I like going after lawyers and judges and just, for break it off in their rectal orifice, I'll call it for today. And so make it very painful. And I file bar grievances. If you file enough bar grievances against lawyers, they're going to lose their bond. Their insurance company is going to say, well, this guy's too much of a risk. We're not going to cover him anymore. You know what happens when that happens? He can't practice law anymore. And so the same thing with judges. They get too many complaints and that's going to be a problem for them. So that's what I do is I build a case against them and go after them. And I don't think twice about it. You got to understand that if they're talking to you, you are the enemy. Okay, this is warfare. Okay, there's in Black's Law Dictionary, it says a mixed war is a war between public officials and private persons. Okay, so if they're talking to you, you are the enemy. It's warfare. You never ever tell them what's coming. You sandbag them. Okay, I use Randy Kelton, Rule of Law Radio. Randy, I know Randy really well. I see him a couple times a week, and so he helps me with this stuff a lot. I've got a website. It's called Sovereignty International. We're all kings and queens, and that's why it's sovereigntyinternational.fyi. And I've got a YouTube channel called Sovereign Living, and they took it down twice. That's a whole nother story. I'm sure you don't want to hear that. You want to wrap this up. So anyways, thanks for taking the time. Thanks, Happy, for inviting me, and we're all singing the same tune here. Thank you very much.
Oh, blessings.
Thank you so much, Glenn.
Amazing.
What's really exciting about Glenn's work is he's actually gone to the courts and he's tried and tested all of these things. So if any of you have any doubts, Glenn is walking living proof that he's actually gone to these courts and he's tested this out and won. So that's extremely exciting. Right. Well, let's go to our next speaker. I'd like to introduce Dave Moa, who's from the Hopi people. He's actually from the Sun Clan. And what's really interesting and awesome about the Hopi people is they've never lost their sovereignty. So we're going to listen to Hopi Dave and he can share his story about his people.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, it's really good to meet all you out there. I'm seeing your faces on a few of you guys on the video here. So I just want to go ahead and start now. I think this is good. You guys see me, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you hear him okay?
Yeah, you guys sound great.
Oh, okay, good. All right, yeah, talking about what's going on, with our Mother Earth, air, oxygen that we breathe, and plants, animals, and the whole thing that we're actually talking about is what's happening today, what's being unbalanced. And all these have been passed on from years back from our own people. We had to send out messages to the outside world to let them know what was prophesied. It's almost like, say, it's a planned deal. What's going to happen from day 1 to day 2. So meaning that how we were brought here from Mother Earth from below. This is my own words from my people here. How we came to this first world, second world, third world, and then we're sitting at the fourth world. When we're sitting here at the fourth world right now, we're dealing with what's happening with changes in the world here, and we call these. I don't know if you guys ever heard of. There's a little video someone had put up. It's called Koyangnuskatsi. Koyangnuskatsi is a life where things have been really, really congested. So many things that have happened from beginnings. That's what happened, and that's what brought us this far. And every step, this happens, and we try to repair it, and then we move on, and then it happens again. And that's part of the reasons why my people, when I say my people, all living beings here in this universe here, is had wed the world, the universe, so that we can. What our elders tell us is that hold on to this universe to keep it balanced, and we have two warriors up and down to also keep the world balanced from warmth and cold, so that it don't overheat to burn, and then it don't get too cold to freeze. So that's where our Dawa. I'm a Sun Clan. I belong to a Sun Clan, and I'm from the village of Songopavi. I'm Hopi, and I've been traveling quite a bit here. We had sent an individual out to send out message, the prophecies of what had been prophesied, and that's what we're talking about today. And I feel this is part of my position too, of going out and searching and meeting with leaders, chiefs. How can we balance this world back together? How can we balance nature? Because of things that have, we all know what's been going on right now. And if we can't balance this, ourselves, then nature will then take over it. And, nature will, once it takes over, it will not stop. It'll take us where we're going to go. Either it's the last day of the world, or it's a renewing, the cleansing. We go through the healing and then reestablish a new continent, new life for our younger generations. And I believe that's where we're at right now, and we're all meeting together to see how we can work together, putting this on the table and picking out, relieving all the negative and putting all the positive together as one. They say one song that'll move us through another lifetime. So, and a lot I've been going through where I'm understanding, the system with the law system, and with the common law, land of the law, and also you have talked about, and you've done really good. Is it Glenn from Phoenix?
Yeah, Glenn.
Okay, Glenn. Yeah. And it really means a lot right there, and I think you're on the right page there. So now I am learning a lot of these law system in order to use that one day, and because it states that once we stand up before any legal system, we have to know and understand that we are the legal. We are the actual people that should speak out and tell the world that we speak. We don't have anyone to speak for us, but we speak from our own hearts, and let the government know that we're the law. We're the law of the land. It's almost like what I can say, freedom of speech. We have the right to speak. We have the right to make decisions. No one can make my decisions for me. I make my own decisions on how I need to move forward, just as much as everybody else. And there's another one.
Hopi never signed the treaty.
Oh, okay. Now I'm going to go back to this here. Hopi have never signed the treaty, and that's where I'm putting all your law system into this, is that under my traditional self-sovereign governance versus the Hopi tribal government, as all other tribal members, all other nations have tribal government as well. But the government is not part of my government because the tribal government.
That was a good.
Yeah, he was just getting into the meat.
It was a that's a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
While
Sure.
he's thinking about that, one of the things we ought to be doing is declaring a peace treaty between all of our peoples. Nevada County, Republic of Texas, etc.
Right.
That is a great idea.
Treaty of Peace and Recognition.
Yep.
I like that.
That's international affairs. All nations have to be involved in international affairs.
Marcia, who's Dr. From Texas, who's at the Liberty's Horizon? What is her name?
Dr.
Desi.
Andrews,
Yeah, doesn't she have a
Oh,
treaty
yeah.
put together, right?
yes.
Yeah, it's already in play. It needs to be brought forward.
Yes, she came to a Republic of Texas event.
I saw it.
But the important thing with any treaty is it needs to be short and sweet. The founding fathers said we shouldn't get caught up in entangling alliances. And if you see what's going on in the world, that's what's happening. And so my attitude of a treaty of peace and recognition is like a one-pager. We recognize each other and we agree to operate in peace.
I'm sure it can be modified with the right intention. Is Dave,
It looks like his connection got lost. I think we have Stephen on a line, but we'll give Dave just a second more.
yeah, it seems to be cycling.
It was just,
Well, while we're waiting for Dave to come back on, I thought of something while he was speaking. And there's a Hopi prophecy that says, we are the ones we've been waiting for. And what I think is really powerful about this statement is, and it's a little controversial, but I'm going to say that, but a lot of religious doctrination has got people believing that we need an external savior, and it's basically getting the people to give their power away.
Yep.
And that's what the religious indoctrination has done for a long time, is allowing people or making people believe that they don't have the power within them and that we have something external to come save us. But actually, we are the ones we've been waiting for. We hold the power. And that is a Hopi prophecy that I fully stand behind and fully resonate with. So maybe while we wait till Dave comes back on, should we try Steve again? Are you there, Steve?
And by the way, it might be good for Dave just to leave and come back in while Steve. Yeah, Steve's on the phone.
yeah. Or ask Steve if he can hear now.
Steve, can you hear us okay?
Oh, I can hear you great. Yeah, I'm very well.
Oh, awesome. And we can hear you great. I'm excited you're on.
Yeah, maybe communicate.
Finally, huh?
Jump off. Yeah. I don't think he's getting the message.
Well, I wanted to greet each and every one of you. Delawensa, Steve Newcomb, Nula Lendem, Elipauk. It's a little bit of phraseology in our Lenape language. And it's an honor to be here, and thank you, Laughing, for inviting me. I like to start any meeting that I participate in by setting the context as I understand it. And that context begins with the original free and independent existence of our nations and peoples, extending back to the beginning of time through our oral histories and oral traditions, contrasted with the system of domination that was brought by ship across the ocean and imposed on everyone and everything. And we have all of the knowledge and wisdom accumulated over countless generations. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yeah. Countless generations to draw upon. And even though much of that has been destructively impacted by the system of domination or systems of domination and so forth, genocidal systems, nonetheless, we still have the amount of information that has been held together by our traditional knowledge keepers and ceremonial leaders, traditional healers, and so forth. And the thing is that I've been dedicating my life to attempting to understand what happened to our peoples. And early in my learning, I
We don't know
learned
what
about...
happened. Can you guys hear us?
Yeah.
Can you still hear me?
We're just going to keep
Hello?
with Steve for now, Tina, and then we'll come back to you, Tina, but we can't hear you.
She's not hearing us.
Am I still on?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, you are, Steve. Hold on.
you're on. We have Tina and Dave.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. If you want to go ahead and go back to them, that's fine with me.
No, let's keep going with you, Steve.
So the system of domination based on the Vatican papal bulls of the 15th century, when we go deep into those and we look at how the so-called laws, the ideas and arguments of the colonizers, of the invaders, were brought over here and used against our nations and peoples in an effort to destroy our very existence. Once we understand that system, then we can realize that this English language we're now speaking, more than 60% of it is derived from the Latin language of the Roman Empire, one of the most deadly and horrific empires to ever exist on the planet. And so we're dealing with an effort to come to terms with and have a comprehension of these terms of domination. So I have developed something that I call the domination translator, and it's a very simple thing. It's really a technique. But if you have a word like property, which means the first establishment of socially approved physical domination over some part of the natural world, that's one definition. You simply put the word domination in brackets after the word property. Or maybe it's a mortgage, mort for death and gauge for grip. So you could put domination in brackets after that. Or government. In the Vatican Papal Bull of May 1493, there's a sentence that says, "We trust in him," with a capital H on him. So that's the deity of the dominators, from whom empires and dominations and all good things proceed. That's based on the Latin language, but the English translators and the Carnegie Institution translation of that language uses the term governments instead of dominations. So when we see the word government or governments plural, we know that we're really seeing a reference to domination. And that global system of domination is what everyone and everything is up against right now. And we see that being manifested in tremendous numbers of ways, and all the devastation and destruction, the land, the air, the waters, our bodies, every single thing that domination system impacts, there's a consequence to that, very real life consequences. And so part of that has to do with the root word of domination being domo, to subjugate, to subdue, to force, to subservience, to tame, to domesticate, to cultivate, and to till. To cultivate in Latin is colere, which also means to colonize and to design. And the root of colonize is the colon, C-O-L-O-N, which is the digestive tract of the predator body politic, or the imperial body. And the root of that is C-O-L-O, which is to filter out impurities in the process of mining. So it's all about mining everyone and everything for profit. And it has to do with now mining our data, mining our DNA, every aspect of life that can be converted into wealth. The love of wealth and riches is ame rika. Ame, love, and rika, riches and wealth. So it's a matter of decoding a lot of these terms, and time does not permit to go into tremendous detail on these things. I'm giving you a very thumbnail sketch of the use of ideas and arguments against our nations and peoples in a system of ideas called federal Indian law, which my friend Peter Drico calls federal anti-Indian law. But it's really the commonality that we all share, that there's a claim of a right of domination that's brought by ship across the ocean and imposed on everyone and everything, as I said. And when we identify that claim, then we can say there's no such thing as a right of domination. Certainly for our original nations and peoples, we have the first in time, first in right position. and that's irrefutable. We also have the principle of void ab initio nemo dare quod non habet, which means void when initiated. You cannot grant what you don't possess. Those papal bulls written by popes and their scribes, those royal charters put together by their language experts, were null and void when they're written because they did not have any jurisdiction across an entire ocean. They only had jurisdiction within their own homeland. And they certainly were null and void when they got to the coastal waters of, the territorial waters of any coastal nation. And then the third principle is anything that's wrong from the beginning can never be made right because it was wrong from its inception. And when you take those three principles, they provide a very formidable way for us to respond to the claim of a right of domination against us. And I just guess maybe I'll leave it right there because I don't want to go too long, but I appreciate the time to give you a tiny little snippet of some of the information that I've uncovered over 40 years. And I will thank the gentleman that mentioned Francis Lieber. He was a very amazing and important political scientist, or the first political scientist of the United States, I believe. And he wrote a very important article in which he mentioned the principle of nullus, terra nullus, not terra nullius, N-U-L-I-U-S, but N-U-L-L-U-S. And what that refers to is a heathen, pagan, infidel, or unbaptized person. And so these are all the tricks of the mind, the tricks of language, the sleight of mind, trickery that is used in the dominating society system that we're dealing with. But if I had more time, I'd go into more of our traditional principles. Really, it's about the source of all life and how do we stay in balance and harmony with that source of all life, the one who created everything with thought, and the way in which we, through interconnectedness of all our energetic capabilities, we have the ability to come together in very formidable, beautiful, loving way with kindness and understanding to learn how to truly and deeply, respectfully communicate with one another through deep listening and attentiveness with our hearts and our minds in alignment and balance. Wanishi, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Steve, for the beautiful service and research and in-depth that you've gone to learn about all the history and to learn about all of these things that we need to learn so that we can really come up as a more empowered people. I'm wondering if Dave has been able to come back on. If not, we can move on to the next speaker.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move on to Robert Williams. Robert Williams is with Brown Bear, and they're from the Cherokee tribe. And they're going to be talking about land patterns and treaties. Thank you.
Greetings. Shio-yo, as we say in Aniuia, which are commonly known as the Cherokee today. I just want to let everyone know I'm very honored to be here and so pleased to hear all the different comments that have come aboard this venue of talking. I wish we could be together where we could sit by the fire and enjoy the warmth of everyone's hearts.
Is this Wally?
My history, this is Wally, I'm sorry, yes. I carry a bloodline that's 7 generations at least to chiefs of the original Aniuia people who stood on the lands, or what we call the soil, of the Aniuia tribal territory before the Trail of Tears, which everyone's aware of, one of the greater genocides here on this continent. But one of my ancestors stood back and didn't leave, and as a result, we didn't abandon our territorial claims. So it goes back to what everyone's mentioned here in regard to the ancestral history, which is about treaties. And so our journey has been one of resilience for well over 400 years, because we've stayed in the territory of which we would like to call home, along with all the allies as well. So there is a long-lived historical treaty custom that was done as far back as 1613 that we can document through oral and some written documentation, which is called the Gaswenta, which is the two-row wampum, which basically states that we were such giving people and warm-hearted to the recipients of the Europeans and the foreigners who came to this land to enjoy the prosperity, as most have commented on, that's been here for thousands and thousands of years, or as long as the beginning, as far as we know, when the great creator came and gave us the opportunity to enjoy the stewardship of his creation. So I look at it as a position to where we are here because great creator has designed this experience for us, but he meant for it to be prosperous. And as long as we were good stewards of what was created, we would enjoy that prosperity. Well, it appears that we've sort of missed the mark or didn't get the memo, as we might say today. So the Gaswenta is a very significant treaty, I think, that brings up the position of treaty relationships. And going back to what was mentioned just a minute ago, where we needed to do a treaty of peace and recognition, well, those treaties already exist. We just have to go back and claim them, and that's what we were able to do. And standing in our position of lineal consanguinity, which means our bloodlines are still here. We stand in the shoes of our ancestors, and those treaties affect us as they affected those who were a party to them then. Not that they've been adhered to and completely followed during those years, but they still exist, which establishes a nation-to-nation relationship. So we have stood behind that as our authority to claim nation status of our people. And I'm just here to represent that authority and to help with the identification, if you will, of those bloodlines to prove that that claim is still valid today. And so the treaties are there, and I think we can bring those to today's conditions to establish some peace and guidance as to how we can live in harmony with each other, whether it be a bloodline or an ally. It doesn't matter, as it was mentioned before. If you're born here, which is Earth, we're all born here, it is our prosperity, and we have to take control of it. And we are the energy and the prosperity that makes that happen. So with love, grace, and gratitude for this opportunity to come forward, I just really like to kind of hand over the baton here, or the opportunity to talk about land titles, which is one of the most important things that we have of Mother Earth, is the right to use the resources of the soil, which has been now called land. It's been changed because it had to land on the soil in order to exist, so that's what they've done. But to kind of give a better perspective of that and some opportunities that are availed to us there, is Robert Williams, who is known as Wawita in our language. He's going to talk a little bit about how we can take some lands and bring them into our titled ownership, where we don't have interference from other governances. I'll hand it over to you, Wawita.
Thanks, Wally.
You're muted, Rob.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Okay, we'll move on to the next speaker. But thank you so much, Wally Brown Bear. That was beautiful and a beautiful share and really inspiring. Thank you so much. I'd like to move on to Jim Brown Eagle, who's actually from the Clear Lake tribe, the Canocti. And Clear Lake's actually one of the oldest lakes in the country. He's been really fighting a lot to protect his land over there. And are you with us there, Jim? Yeah, I did speak to him earlier. Well, I think in the meantime, I'd love to circle back round to Chief Don over here. I know you have some important words to share.
Yeah, thank you. I'll tell you what, my head is just reeling listening to all you people. I mean, I've never heard that language before, but I can identify with it. And I want to talk a little about Hopi Dave said he never signed a treaty, that Hopi never signed a treaty. Well, we signed treaties, but they were never ratified, so I guess we didn't sign any either. Right? Is that how it goes? So my understanding is the federal government entered into like over 500 treaties and broke every one. That's my understanding. So I would like to go back to what my friend John Trudell said. They lied to us, then they lied to themselves about lying to us. And I think that he hit it dead on. And he did that a long time ago. You know, and he knew all this stuff that was coming down. I don't know how he knew it, but through vision or whatever. So I'd like to, if I got some time, I'd like to talk about the property out here that the tribe is on. And another thing about the treaties, you know, they came in here and it wasn't the 7th Cavalry or anything. It was the pioneers and settlers. And they killed, murdered all the Indians except it was 99.5% depopulation. 1/2% remained. So if somebody come up to you and says, you want to sign a treaty, what would you say? Well, hell yeah, I would, right? I mean, but that's just here in the state of California. They never ratified any of the treaties. They made a lot of the treaties, but they never did ratify them. So it doesn't mean anything. The only thing it means is that, yeah, you were there at that time. But that's all it means. There's property out here that the tribe is building a village site. I'm trying to make it original as I can. The county came to us and says you have to get fees and permits to do that on our roundhouse and our sweat houses and so they call me into the office at the county and says, look, I says, let's talk about this. And they didn't want to talk about it. They wanted to get lawyers involved. So we got a lawyer involved. I got a lawyer and we went in there and the room was full just like this. The lawyer came in and said, now, this is it. This tribe signed a treaty on the Bear River, whether it was ratified or not, they signed that treaty. That gives them heritage. And you don't have heritage. So you don't have jurisdiction over us.
Correct.
And that was, so everybody just left the room. There was nothing, it was, am I through?
No.
So anyway, but they still are hanging on. They're still trying to wiggle around, and I don't know what's going to happen over it. But I would like to say that we've had a lot of support out there, though. A lot of support. A lot of people like what we're doing out there with Rick and 4E. We come together with children, and they don't care about children. I don't think this country cares about children. I heard before that this country eats their children.
Yep.
And I believe that, because why would you want to chase children away from learning about the land? I mean, to me, that's, anyway.
Yes, I would just like to mention that there's such a thing as a child corporation, and it's all corporate law. And I think I can show you how you can take some BLM land for sure. And that's something that's a little project of mine from way back. But also, you cannot, there's international treaties. Well, I wouldn't say international, under the private international law, under the Unidroit, go to the Unidroit website, and they'll have all sorts of treaties about about children that the U.S. is involved in. So you cannot use the word child. Okay, it's posterity. It's my son or my daughter. But when you and as long as you do that, then they got nothing to say about it. But as soon as you start using that word child, you can't use that. Okay, and this is all about the words again, and we talked about that earlier. Okay, you got to stay away from certain words.
And Don, just your point about the land and them having jurisdiction over you. They don't have jurisdiction in Nevada County, state of California, or in the United States. Their jurisdiction is DC.
That's true.
And you're never going to be told that. The attorney won't tell you that, but that's the reality of it. They're all United States subcorporation.
That's true.
And they only have jurisdiction. That's the 50 state ofs, the 3,149 counties. They only have jurisdiction. They're all corporations, subcorporations of the United States, and they only have jurisdiction in DC.
They're violating Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, which is District of Columbia is a maximum of 10 miles square. Okay. And so that's a violation of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. And so you can go after them for that. But really, at the end of the day, licensed contractors have to have all of those requirements. If you get people to build that for you that don't have a license, there's nothing they can say about it.
Yeah, so that was getting back into the contracts, but I'd love to hear you finish your thoughts, and Robert William will actually unpack more of that as well, that very topic.
Well, this just happened recently to me, so I'm really new at that. The county is always, so I went to the county and said, what do you want? They asked me, what do you want? And I said, I just don't want any fees or permits to do what I'm doing. And I'm not going to, this is what I told them, I'm not going to tear it down. You're not going to make me tear it down. If you want it down, you're going to have to burn it down like you did years ago. And that's what they did years ago. They burnt the roundhouses down, you know, and it destroyed the people. But I told them that, and they backed off. And so you guys, guess you know what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
Well, the fact of the matter is, County of Nevada Corporation is just like Krispy Kreme Donuts Corporation. It's just that they put a sign on the building that says County of Nevada, but they're just Krispy Kreme Donuts Corporation. They don't have any jurisdiction. They don't have any authority. They don't have any oaths. They don't have any bonds. It's just a criminal enterprise masquerading as government. And it gets jurisdiction through contract.
Commerce Clause. Under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3, that's the Commerce Clause. The Supreme Court has ruled that Congress has plenary jurisdiction over the Commerce Clause, which means it's a dictatorship. If you're in commerce, then you're in a dictatorship. But otherwise, they got nothing. So that's what you need to do. I would make an affidavit or something like that, file a lawsuit, you know, or I don't know if you want to go that much trouble. But anyways, it's Commerce Clause. And that's why they're bringing it outside District of Columbia, because Commerce Clause, remember, I don't know if you remember the Kavanaugh hearings when the Supreme Court, or Senate was interviewing Kavanaugh to be on the Supreme Court. And they asked him, can you go after a U.S. citizen in Afghanistan? And he said, yes, you can. But that's because a U.S. citizen is a fictitious entity. And that's the Commerce Clause. That's how they get it. So again, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17.
All right. Don, do you feel complete?
Some closing thoughts?
Yes, I do. So, yeah, Asasaka.
Oh, well, let's circle back to Robert. Robert, you on the call? I saw you pop up there. Well,
can you hear me this time?
Yes, we can.
That's awesome. Okay, well, thank you very much for inviting me to speak, and I come in peace with honor, and I certainly want to express the honor that I feel for all of you coming and sharing on this great work. We certainly have a tremendous challenge, and we have a lot to unwind, a riddle. And so I was asked to come here tonight to talk about land patents. I partner with a gentleman who's had 50 years career experience in land law and water rights and right-of-way, and he's a teacher and assistance provider. So I've had the blessing of learning from him and working with him very closely, and I've learned a lot about the law of the land and why it's important for us to understand more closely. So in my research, one of the things we have to do is a chain of title, and we have to show how somebody today wound up with a portion of a patent that was expressed maybe 250 years ago. Most of them are about 100 years or so, some a little younger, some a little older. But what I've discovered through that research is that there are many Native people that have been the first grantee of land patents, and women for that matter too. And so along the way, there is a lot of confusion about the Republic and the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution and what is a territorial government, what is a municipal government, what is a Republican form of government. And so to the best that I can tell, and this is just my interpretation, is that the Republican form of government didn't have any prejudice. It didn't have any of the Roman plagues, if you will. And so those land patents are still valid today. There's no authority to unwind them. They are forever. There's sacred honor behind those instruments because there's no commerce in it. There's no money in it. Land patents can only be conveyed. And so if people are trading money around the patent, then that's something they're doing privately. But the patent itself, by law, can only be conveyed. It can't be sold or liened or encumbered. And that was to ensure that even the poorest farmer couldn't be separated from his land by bankers and politicians and attorneys of the Roman system and could have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So they're very important. They come from what are called public lands, and those are lands that were set aside for disposal in Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2, the land disposal, to ensure that people could homestead those lands. And there's millions of patents that have been created, but millions of them have also been abandoned. And they've been abandoned to accept a commercial alternative of real estate. So whether it's industrial or commercial or agricultural or residential, it's all real estate, right? It's all titles that are created by public administration, and it's because the patents have been abandoned. So how is that relevant to our Native people? Is that today they call them BLM lands, or they call them Department of Forestry lands, but those agencies are administrative agencies, and they're administering abandoned and unclaimed patents. And we've had admissions of that from the Department of Forestry and the Department of Agriculture, and we've had some successes with homesteading those lands. And so I think that might be one of the greatest kept secrets, is that the public lands are still available under the Homestead Act. I don't want to take up too much time. I know we had Wally and I split 8 minutes, but so I just wanted to give hope that these lands are accessible. There's some challenges because we've been missing for so long, but they are instruments of honor. And I know that there was religious warfare and even tribal warfare. So those systems were insufficient for a peace and a prosperity that could reach across our divisions. Someone earlier mentioned the divide and conquer. And so by creating a shared value system where sacred honor is at the top of our value hierarchy, we'll be able to unify and we'll be able to out-honor the adversary. So I commend everybody here and certainly would like to see more of these conversations. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert. That was amazing and very inspiring. Can really see you've done your homework. And I just appreciate you so much for your dedication and service and sharing all of these important information with everybody, because that's what we need to do now, is educate and empower each other with all of this information so that, if a corporation comes, we know what we can say, we know our rights. I'd really like to move on actually to the South Americas. And our next caller is Rodrigo Ardiles. And he's actually been collaborating with the Mapuche people. And they have a very fascinating story where they actually won their land back from the church. And he witnessed all of this, and he's worked closely with the Mapuche people. So thank you, Rodrigo, for being here.
Thank you very much. I wanted to first of all thank the Gaia Warriors, thank Happy and Joy for introducing me into this amazing circle. I've learned so much. And we've been speaking a lot about international law, and we cannot be blind for what is happening today in the Middle East. The International Court made a significant ruling. I don't know still how to interpret it, so maybe our friends in the table can help us interpret what was taken from the South African initiative. And just so you know, today, right now, as we speak, the Nasser Hospital has a blackout in the city of Khan Union, where the indigenous people of Palestine have been suffering a genocide for over months and months. We have a calculated of 26,000 people dead. And like you said, there are many sons and daughters and grandsons and granddaughters that are no longer with us. And those are voices that will no longer be in their struggle of their land recuperation. So I wanted to make this important, very important, significant note that we cannot ignore what's going on. And this is a consequence of what we've been talking about. I come from Chile, a land that is hosted and been fostered by the many rich cultures as the Mapuche, as the Aguita, as the Aymara, as the Koya, and most famously the Rapa Nui, which people know today as the Easter Island. Yes, that is the territory I was born. I was born in 1973, 11 days before the US government overthrew Salvador Allende, the first president that stood up and during the United Nations said to us and educated us, saying that the corporations were going to take over because the corporations were there before in Chile extracting the mining, as you know, the Anaconda and all that. So I have to make this brief history patch before I go into the personal experience with what we have seen with the Mapuche people in the further south. The Mapuche, which stands for Mapu is land, Che is people. Those are the southern people. In their struggle, in the colonial struggle, were actually, with their many clans and communities, peaceful clans before the Spaniards arrived, created very strategic military defenses, and were the only land caretakers that were able to defeat the Spaniards. They actually cleverly endorsed diplomacy and signed a treaty, the Killeen Treaty, in 1641, on the 6th of January, to be more precise. And this treaty was acknowledged by the King of Spain because they actually wanted to halt the slaughter of the Spaniard soldiers by the Mapuche people. Hats off for that. There's only been a similar treaty in Latin America, what we know today as Mesoamerica, Latin America, by the Tlaxcalan people, what we know today as Mexico. But that treaty was created for the benefit of Hernan Cortés to continue his genocide And so we consider the Mapuche Treaty a very interesting and knowledgeable fact, and I invite everyone to research on that, on the Kirin, and it's on everywhere, and there's a lot of papers written in the different languages, and it's also a model. Okay? It's a model because, unfortunately, that treaty was was disturbed and destroyed in the 1860s during what we call the pacification of when the new Chilean state and republic was created. And so, as we see, there's a cycle of the history that repeats itself both in the North and the South. And it's very important that today we contextualized what has been the imperialist, I guess, interference in governments in indigenous territories across the world. And this has to do with what we have learned today and what has been rectified in this circle and this knowledge that everybody says that, it has to do with extraction, it has to do with the water, it has to do with the rights, and it has to be also considered about the well living and how the indigenous people have taught us to live well, and how these corporations that have taken over the world have used these laws to very specifically conquer what we see conquer today commercially and all our livelihoods. The 1973 coup d'etat was considered by many people as one of the worst errors of history, modern history. They compare it to the genocide of the Nazis, where the new economical model that we see today, the neoliberal model, was instated. We know that the military dictatorship cleverly worked with the US administration in articulating the 1980 Constitution of Pinochet, which still stands today. And that is one of the worst constitutions in the world, where today the only country in the world that has the water privatized. The water is not public in Chile. We have not dozens, but hundreds of indigenous political prisoners that have been persecuted by the constitutional laws that were created to control the subversity of the people of Chile that struggled against that dictatorship between 1973 and 1989. So we go back to see how, and I refer back to what I've learned today, is that how we see these laws that are embedded into the territories that are used against our people. Now there is hope. There is hope. I see here in this table the exchange of knowledge. And it's not that one has a better experience or worse experience. I think that we're all going through difficult experiences. And we need to start creating these dialogues to teach our sons and daughters, that there is a way, there is a dialogue, and there is alternative to capitalism. I wanted to state the case of the Lake Budi, which is the only salted lake in southern Chile near the city of Temuco, where the Mapuche community, called the Yaguipuyi community, actually confronted the Franciscans in their territorial dispute, in which they were able to, after they took over the church and they took over the land, the Franciscans came back in the constitutional clause and demanded the Mapuche community. And this was a court case that lasted around 5 or 6 years. And during those 5 or 6 years, the Mapuche took over the community of that, the Lafkenche, we call it the Lafkenche Mapuche, not only took over the land, but started to recreate the educational processes of many generations, where the traditional earnings of the grandparents, of the ancestrals, were in the teachings of how to make food, how to work the farms, how to fish. And that's how they taught the children, and that's how they created their own schools. Today, the Mapuche in the Lafkenche territory of Lake Budi successfully run and administer their own school, their own territory, and their own language. Their school has been recognized by the UNESCO as one of the unique models, where even the Chilean state has asked them to be the advisors into the language recuperation program that we see across the world. What are the impediments? The impediments in international law, we could say, is the failure of the 169 Treaty of the World Organization of Workers that enabled the indigenous territories across the world to have a legal say. And this is, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this treaty is supposed to be beneficial to the territories. So any mining, commercial, or any activity that affects the territory first has to be consulted. the 169 treaty is overruled by Pinochet's constitution in Chile. And this has caused a tremendous frustration inside the communities and inside the legal procedure. Unfortunately, the Chileans had an opportunity to change the constitution, but then we saw the massiveness of the right-wing movement, the propaganda, as we see today, not only in Chile, we see it in Argentina, now in the States, where the right-wing movements have taken the populist propaganda and are trying to change the minds and opinions of many. And so again, I invite everybody to look at the Quilín Treaty, and the chief, Jorge Calfuqueo, has left his message to invite everyone to go to the Mapuche territory to learn from their experiences. They are currently articulating a community radio station, and any help is welcome. And it's a beautiful community where we can see similar recuperations and struggles. And again, I wanted to rephrase the words here that only with kindness and understanding, with our hearts and minds, we'll be able to create a better world. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Rodrigo, that was powerful to hear about how the struggles and challenges that the Mapuche people went through and how they overcome it all. Is very inspiring and really saddened my heart to hear about the water and what's happening with the water in Chile. But thank you so much. That's beautiful, and I hope we can really help the Mapuche people to carry on thriving as they do. I'd like to circle back now with Hopi Dave, who's actually on the call. Hopi, I know the last thing that you were speaking about was how the Hopi people never signed the treaty, and maybe you could continue that story and just wrap it up. Can you hear us, Dave?
Is this Gail by chance?
Hello, this is Jim. Can you hear me?
Oh, this is Jim Brown. He made it up. Jim Brown Eagle.
All right, let's move on to Jim Brown until we can hear back from Hopi Dave. Thank you for being here, Jim.
Thank you for. I'm so honored to be a part of this sacred circle of healing, and that's what we are. And I'd like to say, really, I'm just so honored. And as an elder, everything everyone's talking about, I've experienced it. And our families have been really hurt by many of these policies. But I just want to let you know that I have a website, because I document almost everything they're talking about here. And actually, before I get more started, could I introduce my wife?
Please.
Gail?
Please.
Yes, because it's so important, because what I talk about is where our biggest problems are is the matriarch society. It's missing. And see, we are all dominated by the English male society, where only men rule. And indigenous people are native women, who are our creators. They're our life givers of our nations. And they have spirituality as well. They appointed our tribal people, our male chiefs. So I have a long history about that. But Gail, can you hear? Can you hear us?
Hello. Sinwama in Hilton Kanimich. Thank you, my friends and relatives. I'm a Yakeo Pomo. We are of North Central California, about 200 miles north of San Francisco. My matriarch ancestry is both from the Upper Lake area and the Ukiyo Valley. That's where I originate from. My paternal ancestry is from Lone Pine, Paiute lands, and Ukiyo. And we believe it's for all nations, balance, spirit, unity, and we are all teachers. It's a spirit movement, how to make things right again. Air, water, land, it's all life, all our life. Since 1881, my tribe has had no federal government affiliation. Ukiyo is tribal land ownership. We are a non-federally recognized tribe by choice of our ancestors. We wish to have a home for our people and to be who we are. Our goal is passing on our spiritual heritage and cultural sustainability. For my lifetime, the past 60 years, our original matriarch leadership has returned. And I feel blessed to be a part of this gathering of conversation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so again, that's my wife. As a matter of fact, this year we'll be celebrating our 50th wedding anniversary, in our roundhouse, our ceremony. So one of the most important things I wanted to bring up is, again, I've been fortunate to be taught by our ancestors, our elders, our chiefs. I'm a traditional chief. And what happened was Clear Lake, Lake County, is one of the oldest lakes in the Western Hemisphere. We're people of the water. We are the oldest fishing society with a 22,000-year history here in Lake County. Our lands went all the way down to the Pacific Ocean. And of course, just like they talk about the Army colonizing all of this, that's what happened. Now, what they did was they brought in the archaeologists and anthropologists to basically colonize us. So now they've given us false names. They call us Pomos. Now look, there's Navajos, Sioux. These are all false names that our people have to live under. That's not our indigenous names. So that's what I do. I try to talk about the true history of our people. And I was 16 years old. I remember I was at a rally in Oakland, California, and my family was relocated there. And I heard a black man say, a person without knowledge of his history and culture is like tree without roots. So that's what I realized. Look at all of these people, don't know their history, don't know. That's what the problem is. And that's why we can't unite. And so I've been looking at that. So what I did, and I'm hoping, so since the age of 23, I became my tribe's first tribal administrator in 1973. So I went through the whole government, BIA, federal system, Indian health, all of that in the beginning. And I see how corrupt and colonizing it is. And so what happened to us was there was a mercury mine called the Sulphur Bank Mercury Mine that they allowed to operate on the largest natural lake. They completely polluted the whole lands, and this is our lands. Now, in Clear Lake, there's a book called Pomo Lands on Clear Lake, and it shows that our original tribe was called the Hauku Nation. There were 3 of us. Each of our main chiefs' village were on islands. Those islands still exist here in this county. And our county, unfortunately, is the old racist home guard. And in California, that's what you find. In the rural areas. It's just like going back to the Alabama, to where all the racist people could be, and that's how it is here. So our people either have to accept colonization and lose their traditional ways. Well, I'm fortunate because we once had a roundhouse society of 18 roundhouses in 11 counties. And matter of fact, we practiced the ghost dance. In 1871, the Northern Cheyenne from Nevada, Lavoca's father brought it to the Potland people who are our neighbors and a part of our roundhouse society, and it was introduced to our tribe. We still dance this in our roundhouse every May. So we've been able to carry on this. The problem, again, like someone mentioned, our governments are so colonized. See, they are not the leaders of our people. That's what we call the paper leaders, because our people have the knowledge of the land. So I would like you to, so here's what happened to us. We filed, so it was the Bureau of Indian Affairs that got embarrassed when we went to the public and said, look, in 1969, we had no housing. As a matter of fact, Alcatraz movement was going on at the same time. Take over Alcatraz in San Francisco. And that's how our story got buried, because of that publicity. And so what our tribe was showing was that we can prove that we had private land ownership. And because of the matriarch society. Not only that, we had intermarriages. So we're people of a watershed. Our watershed went all the way down to the Pacific Ocean. So we're people, and a part of our water and our sacredness is the fact that there are over 80 hot springs in this county. Every one of those counties had a traditional shaman that led the healing in those pools. We no longer have that. It's like a hippie convention of, hey, let's go party. And that's what the business did. They took away these sacred sites that we once healed ourselves with, as well as the foods. I have a document when the Bureau, so the U.S. EPA Superfund, we had to go to them because the Bureau of Indian Affairs built us houses in 1971 because they were so embarrassed by this report. But what they did, in order to, when you live by the lake, you have to have what they call the 100-year land plan. The flood plan is called. So they moved all the tribal homes that we stayed next to the lake up to a levee. And they went next door and bought the mercury mine tailings and put our housing and our roads on that. So since 1971, we've been living on that. Okay? I have 7 members of my family. All of them, except for me, has died from cancer. Okay? The fish, all the fish in this county have mercury in them. But the county doesn't care. The biggest thing here is the bass competitions. They don't care about none of this. It's all a commercial. And I like what they said. The commerce is the key. That's how they created the Indian tribes, through the commerce, and created control over the tribes. So if you can, and I know I don't want to go more because I'm learning so much from everyone else too. Please go to my website that I opened up called the eastlaketribe.com. So what I did was I found all the documents. So what happened here was when we tried to take the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the EPA to court, they violated what they call Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act. So in other words, we're one of the oldest documented tribes, right, with a 20-year history, but they never even did an archaeological survey before they did the work. So we were ready to sue them, and the Bureau of Indian Affairs came in and overthrew our tribal election. They actually implanted employees from the Bureau of Indian Affairs who were actually members of our tribe into those positions. And so since 2010, my tribe, my tribal lands, all the families here have been politically disenfranchised. We don't receive 1 cent from the federal government. We receive no services at all. And that's our fight. So what I said was, I'm going to document this. And I have it all on that website. But the great thing is I was able to get documents from the Bureau of Indian Affairs where it shows their conflict of interest and what they did, how they appointed this group who is not even tribal members, federally recognized. So see, that's one of the other things. Unfortunately, when you look at the government, how they tricked us, a good example of the what they call
Jim, thank you so much.
The Indian Organization Act. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry, but just check out my website, and I think you guys will see all of this. Last thing I'd like to say. Oh, I'm sorry. What?
Could you wrap it up for us, please?
Okay, yeah. I just want to wrap it up. One thing. Also, I've been on community radio for the past 25 years, and I talk about all of this. If you want to chime in on that, you can go to www.kpfz.org, and I'm live every Tuesdays from 4 to 6. And thank you guys. I'm so overwhelmed of being included on this, and I want to be a part of this healing. All my relations.
Thank you, Jim, and blessings to Gail's mother.
Thank you, Jim, so much for that really heart-wrenching and really sad story, and what a testament to your courage and for you really being a pioneer in this movement and for really standing up for our beautiful, beloved Mother Earth. So thank you, Jim. I'm really, really inspired and touched by your story, and I hope everybody can tune into his radio station and support him. So we have 3 speakers left, and I'm going to bring it over to Cesar. Oh. Hopi Dave, are you there? Can you hear us? And Tina? One last attempt to see if we can hear you guys.
Saga continues.
You really left us at a cliffhanger.
Yeah, I'm in communication with them. We're just...
Yeah. Well, let's bring Cesar in. She's been patiently waiting on the call, and so she's from the Quichua-Otavelu tribe, and they're from Ecuador. And she's basically talking about the generation of the young warriors. Thank you, Cesar.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tess, for being in contact with me, and a little bit sorry for the misunderstanding a little bit earlier. I'm very honored to be here. I'm very honored to hear from all the elders, from everybody. I'm very honored, happy for inviting me and always teaching me so much. I've learned so much by, just being around you all and been listening. And my name is Sisa Pacarina, which means sunrise flower, and I'm from my territory in the northern Andes, what is now known as Ecuador. I am currently living in Bulbancha territory, what is now known as New Orleans. And I think when Happy and I talked about this gathering, I was very excited to mainly listen to all your experiences and everything you all have to say. And I think I don't have this background of law necessarily as strong, but I do have lived experiences back in my territory that I think are important for me to share. And I think and questions that I have that I want to just put it out there as I'm growing older. I grew up in the capital city back in what is now known as Quito, and since I was a little kid, I was surrounded by non-native people, so I was kind of the only one around, and always trying to clarify trying to defend myself from all these idea that I was different than everybody else. And then one of the things that kept me going and kept me thinking about that, I gotta be connected to my relatives. It was the fact that I grew up with these uprisings from my relatives back in Ecuador in the 1990s. And the uprisings that they had and the way that they all got together for defending our territories and defending our waters, that was something that was being passed on me while growing up. And that was something that I always remember when I had to defend myself, and I had to be who I am and be in spaces where I was not welcome, but still, taking that space for me and trying to do that. And then recently I was able to participate in the last two uprisings, because when the uprisings happened back in the 90s, I wasn't even born. So I was able to see and participate in all of that in the last two large uprisings throughout the country in 2019 and 2022. And I think I had a lot of insights about what it meant for me to be part of it and be with my elders and be on the streets and also defend what we have and also understand that we're all gathering together. And for me, that was kind of one of the main things that I wanted to point out for this gathering, that the feeling of no being alone fighting everything, the feeling of all of us being together, the feeling that I'm not the only person in the room who is doing that, or not the only one, is definitely something that I felt back on the streets and back on 2019 and 2022. But it's also the feeling that I'm trying to cultivate as I'm right now where I live. I don't really see many relatives as much, and I'm trying to create the path, but it does feel lonely. It does feel like I'm the only one in the struggle. And I think that's something that for me is hard to do. And that's when I've been in California and I met Happy and I got to share time with him. I felt very connected and very deep connected. And I do feel very connected with you all, with everything you share and everything I've learned so far. And going back to the uprisings, the main reasons for the uprisings was for make the Constitution, the Ecuadorian Constitution, respect of the rights to the land that were given back in 2008. So right now in Ecuador we have this it's one of the most people call it progressive and stuff constitutions, and where a land is recognized as a living being, and so it has its rights. So in paper, it was one of the biggest success for my people back there. But then when we think about how it's actually implemented, it has been very devastating and very disappointing. And that's one of the main things that we are trying to figure it out, how to make that work, or how to deal with that. Luckily, there has been this case with my relatives back in the Amazon, Quichua Sarayaku. They won this case against the Ecuadorian state. Because the Ecuadorian state wanted to displace them from the territories for oil extraction. And then they won the case. And that was like one of the things that for me, in my generation we saw, but that had to do a lot with the use of also social media by the younger generations to make this case as mediatic as possible. So like there's a lot of attention and a lot of eyes on it. So that pressure a lot to these institutions to recognize the case. And I think for me as a young woman, I'm constantly thinking of like, how do I navigate this world where I'm trying to be connected and understanding and repair my relationship to my other relatives and also to my non-human relatives, but I'm also drawn into like, I live with my relatives are not around as much as I would like to, and I'm like outside, and I know so many other people who we're a little bit like lost on the way. We don't know exactly how to repair these connections, and that's something that has been on my mind so much since I feel like I and other people, young people that I know, with our relationship to our non-human relatives has been, because of the trauma that our like grandmas, our parents, our grandparents have gone through. Like we are struggling with that relationship, and then I want to understand how do we repair that? How do we feel more connected? How do we not feel orphaned and alone in this world that is a very chaotic world? And that's kind of where what was already said. I have more questions than actually present stuff, because I think I feel like you're all teaching me as much, and I feel very honored. And talking to my younger peers when I'm back on the territory, a lot of us think about that. How do we navigate this like complex world of growing up in this like society that does have, for instance, these like technologies, for instance, that help us to put our voices out there and like to try to be as connected as we can, but at the same time we're dragged into the system and we feel orphaned, we feel alone, and we feel lost. So that would be my main question. And I think more than anything, for me, it's important to, I guess, recognize the idea, recognize a lot the space that you are providing and all the teachings that you have. And then what my thought is right now, or has been throughout like this whole conversation, is how do I bring all these teachings and everything that you're all sharing to my people, and to especially when I take my people, especially to my brothers and sisters who are also young, who are also trying to figure out what to do with their lives, but are not able to speak English and speak, other languages to communicate. Some of them are in different things. So I'm like thinking, how do we take all these teachings? How do I take all these teachings and bring back to it? That's like a question that I also have in my mind. But thank you so much for the space. Thank you so much. Happy for giving the microphone for me, and I feel very honored and very grateful to be included here. And I'm very happy to connect with any of you that you just want to talk to me right now. Slowly getting connected to my relatives here in Bulbancha. So that's opening up opportunities. I'm gonna have a radio show actually at Bulbancha Liberation Radio. And I want to talk about this and our relationship to our non-human relatives. That is just something that I feel like I have it so much in my heart and in my soul. And thank you everybody for sharing. And I feel very honored to be here. Yupay Chani.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Cecil, for sharing from your heart. And I do see a movement around the world where we're giving nature human rights. And I see that as a really beautiful cause. And I'm really putting my energies and prayers into that becoming a reality. And just so you know, Cecil, our intention is to create a movement here where we can share all of these questions, share all of these codes and basically solutions on how do we disseminate this information to the worldwide global family. And we, on our Gaia Warriors platform, we're going to have basically a forum where we can all share our ideas and share all of this wisdom with each other, because we're not alone. And this is a beautiful movement where we can get all the people to come together, so we do feel united, we do feel supported, and we can share all of our trials and tribulations and challenges and how we've overcome them, and get this information together and just get it out to the world. So that is something that is the main intention of this call, and we will continue to do that. So please do keep emailing us, and we'll keep showing that on the screen. So we're going to try something really interesting here with Hopi Dave, because we really want to hear the end of his story. We have him on the call here, and I'm going to see if we can put him on speaker and on the microphone. This is going to be a weird technical thing, but we'll try. Hopi, can you hear us?
Speaker's down there.
Hey, Kes.
Yes. Yeah, we hear you.
We hear you, Dave.
Oh, okay, good. Hey, I'm here. I'm back. I'm back on a great show of Native American and all universal life. Indigenous. Anyway, okay, all right. You guys can hear me, right?
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, my thing is, I don't know how far I spoke, how many minutes I spoke before I closed it.
You spoke for about 5 minutes. You were telling us about how the Hopi never signed the treaty.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and continue. But a lot of things I've heard that's within our own selves. It's people with. We are people with. We come from common law, right? The common law. I'm starting to understand a lot of these things, and a lot of people, have they spoke about grieving, and also the thing we should all talk about also is Declaration of Independence, because that's really good. That would help, through my self-sovereign government, and we are governed, with our own governance and our own protocols are through our traditional system, which is through our ceremonials, and also that's going through our kivas. Our kivas are like longhouse, roundhouse, whatever type of wiki up homes that Native American Indians have, American, but America that's not who I am. To say it out, I am Hopi. Hopi Nation is who I am. I am not America. I'm not part of the United States citizen, because under my traditional form of governance, that's Hopi is who I am. These are the things that I would, also use, as my common law, to court system and all that. And one thing I want to go ahead and bring up also too is that there was a church that was put into our community, into our village community, and it had a big old logo out there, and it has Potter House. I don't know if any one of you have heard of Potter House. That came into our community, and everybody woke up to a Potter House with a big logo out there. It's a 2-story building, and that logo is almost as big as that 2-story building. So I drove into the village, and I saw that, and I said, wow. Then when I was leaving back from my house, back out of the village, I saw a lady there. So I asked her, lady, what are you guys doing here? What's all this about? And and she told me that they're having church at 7:00, and to come in. And I said, "Do you know that you're trespassing my jurisdiction?" And then she started preaching at me. So I said, "Okay, we'll be back at 7:00." That's all I said. We'll be back at 7:00. So then I went back and I got my documents on our rights, who we are. At that time, I was part of one of the highest leaders. I was a leader for 16 years, and today now I'm another healing I do from leadership is medicine man, and I work and help heal, and that's part of my thing here. And also I'm a wife keeper, an elder, and also I make decisions also with a lot of things. And this is really good that I hear all of you guys speak, and these are some things that I want to look into so that I can go to any court system and take care of what needs to be taken care of. And because I know my protocols through my traditional system. I know under our traditional self-sovereign government, my protocol is very clear. And the only thing I need to do is learn foreign language a little bit, just a little bit. I don't need a whole lot of it. Just something that I can get by with in order to beat all the things that have been, have had happen to our people since time immemorial, and a lot of our people are grieving with it. It's not one nation, another nation. It's all around the universe. We are all dealing with this. We are we are the children of the earth. And yes, we all have rights. We all have rights to speak for ourselves. And the land of the law, we speak from land of the law, and also we speak from common law, and we speak from global. And it all, the whole thing about this global warming, it tells us what's been happening. What's happening with the world being unbalanced, also that's where I was at. And unbalancedness is, as a farmer, I see when my plants are not growing properly, there's something going there's something going wrong in the air. That's pollution. There's chemtrails. There's oil spills. All these things, all through the universe. That there's so many things that are happening. That this is all pertaining back to the government, and also a thing I've heard also is
Hopi, we really love your transmission, but we're gonna need to start wrapping it up. Would you be able to wrap it up for us, please? It's very hard to stop you, but we have to.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Just going back, just letting everyone know that we can bring things back together, balance things back together by using our traditional law system, and just like we did with the church, we shut the church down. It came in one day. That night it was gone. The next day it was quiet again back in our home. And I came in with all my law documents. So the court said, okay, we have the authority. So we have the authority to shut the church down. That's just something I wanted to bring up, and because this also entails from my self-sovereign governance, and this is what I've been traveling around to meet with all the natives, all the I met Don in also in California, and I've talked a little about this with him, and this is the way that we can come together and hopefully make this declaration of independence under a traditional law system to overbeat the court system.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to bring this up, and then after being in and out,
Dave, we have to wrap it up right now. We're really over time, but we really appreciate what you've shared. Thank you so much, Dave. And we'll bring you back on again.
all right, okay. You have a good one. Yeah.
Thank you
guys
so
all have
much.
a good night.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave.
Prayers to- Yeah, all good prayers.
All
Good
good
night.
prayers. Thank you so much, Hopi Dave. So the last person that we're going to bring on is Eric Gonzalez, and he's our last Indigenous speaker for the day. And then we have one more amazing speaker that's going to really knock your socks off. So Eric, we'll pass over to you. He's representing the Mayan people of Guatemala.
Can you see me or hear me? Oh, there you are.
Yes, we can.
To all my relations, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to be here with all my relations. It's been a beautiful learning moments here with you all. And I send my greetings from the place where we come from, is Guatemala. We call it Ishimuleuf. And so, a lot of beautiful things have been shared. A lot of experiences all over, that we all been through and we're going through. But I want to just share that what's in place for our people. Our people no longer are experimenting what will work or what is going to work. The experiences of our nation is intact. Our languages, our ceremonial ways, the connection to the land has never been severed or displaced. All of our systems of governance inside of our tribes, our nations is in place. That's where I have been in 77 and meeting up and as a young man traveling through our conflict, our armed conflict. And so, we've seen that as well as many of you. And now, we see what it takes to have peace. But our one of our main things is the unification of our peoples of the world. Our unification with Mother Earth can never be forgotten. It has to be the first thing that we come to when we come with our essence, our heart, to come in and say, "Oh, I am here, a child of this Mother Earth. I'm a spirit being who having this spiritual experience here, and that now we have things to do." Yes, many things to learn and much to correct in ourselves first, then as a whole. So our confederations are strong. We were selected to travel many times through with the condor and the eagle, the unification of those prophecies that we have. So here's two gifts from the Quero and the North Nations, Lakota. And many other gifts that we have gone all up and down with our sacred fires. We are keepers of a sacred fire. I am what they call in our Ishimule of Guatemala, a Tata. One guards that which is sacred, that which dedicates ourselves for the wellness of the people, not just our human family, but the land, the earth, the water, all that has been spoken. And so this is our journey through this, that we're going to come next week to light fire. 2 fires maybe at the Grass Valley, where I've been ceremony for a lot of years, since 93, since we were sent out by our people, the Maya, to see, is the world people ready? Kogi, Arahuaco, others, so many nations. Are we ready to do what it takes to care for the earth first? And then for the social and the political and the finance problems that we are facing, that it comes as a no integration, no engagement with the society. We know that they have no spirits left inside of them. We know that they're no longer care for the earth or anything, and they're willing to do everything like we see in other places right now, El Congo. We've seen it all over Latin America. We saw it on the sacred lands of the Eagle nations. And we've seen it all over. So it's no news, and they will not stop. What we have is the spiritual connection that was never severed, cut away.
Mm.
And now we see their children coming to us, coming to the sacred fire for the nourishment, for the what doesn't make sense? How can we just keep living with these sacred, violations against life? So they are looking at that, and we know that. And our job, our request has been to keep those ceremonial fires alive, to keep our unification going. So that's what we've done with the elders and youth circle in North America, in the Condor and the Eagle nations. And we've done that with the Condor. And we've done that in Mexico, Tenochtitlan, in the area of Tenochtitlan in Mexico City with Tlacaele and others. That's been our journey. And it continues to this moment. They are requesting for the nations of the world now to unify, to no engagement in their madness, but to work on our solutions of relationship to the earth and the land and the water and that which is sacred. To again invest our time and our love in action for our children's future. For the what they said, the 7th generation. So it's being done. We are active. We are what we call Pashil Kayala, finding the sacred ground and then sustain it, protect it, develop it, share it, bring in the ceremonial part. We cannot separate that's what is told to us. First the creator, first the earth, then ourselves, and then all these problems we have. If we just let it go and don't engage with them, then they don't have no power over us. Let us not buy nothing from them as a nation. Let us not sell them anything. Let us include their children, and they'll see, like, where's my children? They're over there with the Maya. They're over there with the Maidu. They're becoming indigenous people again. They're again talking to the trees, caring for the land, loving the Mother Earth, loving that water. And that's where we've been at. That's what we do. This is who we are. As a Tata, they call it Tata Eric Gonzalez, Omia Kaejekat Gara, Ayana, Hunach Kich Kakchikel de Ishimulev. I'm from the Kakchikel nation of Ishimulev. I live with Sutujil in Atitlan. I have family. We have clans. We have societies. We have councils. We have confederations. And now it is including with the people of the earth. So no color, no shape, no age is limited. Only your heart. Only our heart will prevent us to come into the sacred fire what we have, what we hold in unison. So whenever we're ready to be in council at those places of unification, but there's no insult across the fire. There's no justification of defending each other across our nations. When we stop the conflict in ourselves, then there's no more conflict. Only the celebrations and the strengthening of our people and the beautifying of our Mother Earth. And then moving forward, do we see now their children by the billions protesting? They say, no, it's too crazy, it's too madness. We are not part of your war machine, no more. We are not going to be part of you anymore. And our people, one of the things is we don't even want to talk with you. We don't want a dialogue. There's nothing to say to you except get out of the way. Let us fix what you have destroyed. We'll take it. We'll take the mess. We'll take the dirtiness. We'll take all that dysfunction. And through our ceremonies, we know that we will heal it. We know that we will correct it. We know that we will clean the oceans. We will clean the land. We will clean the waters. We will clean our minds. We will clean our hearts. That's what I'm here. Thank you for bringing us to this level, to this place. You have so much that you have wisdom, knowledge, and you're putting things together for the people of the earth. And if we can bring any little sand, any effort, any prayer, any presence, then I'm here as freely as the wind comes, as the water brings water to life, and our people like that too. We have millions of our people already in place, and they're moving forward. So many, I can tell you so many stories, everything, what is being done right now in Guatemala. But no, it's okay because we don't have time. But just presenting myself as Eric, as this individual who loves and cares. I have my wife, I have my mother and father, I have sisters, I have brothers, I have 5 children, 9 grandkids that I care about, and a lot of relatives that I call love, relations, my family. So we say, Matio Shawe, Nimalech Katit Kamama, Matio Shishawe, Lokoluch Hachao, Lokoluch Rukushkach, Rukushulev, Rukushkak, Rukushkate, Rukushya, Rukushkastemal, Rukushka Kotzihal, Matio Shishawe, Nimalech Katit Kamama. Matio Shawe.
Wow. Eric, that was powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I could honestly listen to you talk all night. That was just, it touched my heart so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wow.
Thank you, Eric. That was great.
What really struck me, Eric, what you said is how it starts from within. It's the conflict within us. We need to heal ourselves first and foremost, because our external is only a reflection of our internal. And so if we can heal our waters inside, then we'll heal the waters on the outside. If we can heal ourselves and our trauma, then we can start treating each other better and start treating the earth better. So that was really an important message there. Thank you, Eric.
No, yes.
So our next speaker actually is someone I'm very inspired by. Her name is Rotenoshoni, and she's actually the lioness of our community here. And she has really just stood up and just, when people were scared to say something, Rotenoshoni would be there saying this message. She really just stands up for her rights, stands up for her truth. And I'm so proud to have Rotenoshoni here in our community. Thank you, Rotenoshoni.
Thank you. Do we have a speaker on? There we go. Thank you. And thank you for everyone who organized this. Thank you to our elders and our Indigenous brothers and sisters. And this is a great honor to be here, especially because our words are traveling the world as well as planting seeds. And I've learned a great deal here. I'm very inspired and I have many more questions. So I'm from here, Nevada City, Nevada County area, a 2-time council member and mayor. And I decided in 2022 to run for governor of California in spite of the odds. And my objective was to talk about a different type of leadership. We have been talking about when the time comes where we can retain and regain our land, and we can regain our constitutional protections and rights, and we can regain real, true representative government, not just as we've been saying before, James, talking about the fact that we have a corporation is running and masquerading as a government. So what happens once we get to that point? What do we do? What type of leadership do we have? And so when I was running for governor, I decided to have no party affiliation, and I was going to make my decision only if we were going to have a platform based upon, as Eric had just mentioned a moment ago, the 7th generation principle. As a former elected official, I've been asking myself for many years, well, once you get elected, then how do you measure my leadership? How do you know if I'm actually representing the people and the land? And I was trying to figure out the best way to have this type of metrics. And I realized that I did not have to figure it out. I just needed to look back into the past, which was to look at the great nations of the Iroquois Confederacy, 6 nations of the Iroquois Confederacy, and of course their great tree of peace, which of course inspired the Constitution, which many people do not know this. Many Americans do not know this. And Ben Franklin and our founders, they spent a lot of time with the Indigenous and inspired the nation we have today, though we've gone sideways. But I looked at the 7th generation principle and I realized that this Constitution that we designed, we have this vessel, the Constitution, and we have the anchor, which are our elders, but we never talk much about the actual compass, like where are we going? And I realized that if we created a metrics based upon the 7th generation principle, which is every decision you make today should serve 7 generations from now. So as a leader, when they're passing a bill, when they're writing legislation, when they're voting at the table, we can actually hold their feet to the fire and we can ask them, is this taking away from 7 generations? Is this adding to 7 generations? Is this supporting 7 generations? And if the answer is no, then you're not serving us. Simple measurement. But I want to take it a step further, because I think when it comes to the environment, and I always consider myself an environmentalist, I think it's very important that we do not look towards the government to care for the environment, to protect the environment as much as it's you and me. It's the rancher, it's the teacher, it's the parent, it's the writer, it's the, it's the milkman. It's all of us being our own leaders and always asking ourselves, when I make those little tiny, tiny decisions every single day that add up over time, am I trying to serve 7 generations? It's not in the big decisions necessarily, it's in the tiny little decisions that add up. Where you shop, where you travel, what you try to serve, what you say, how you treat one another, how you treat the creek running next to your home, how you treat the soil. Do you put glyphosates in it, or do you try to rebuild the topsoil? How do you treat the wildlife around you? What foods do you eat? What meats do you eat? It's in these little tiny decisions that you either take away from the 7th generation or you add to the 7th generation. And so this is what I did as I was campaigning around the state of California. And I want to make this very, very clear. We have been led, and we've been misled to believe that we are a divided nation, that we don't get along and we don't see eye to eye. And there is a rule of thumb that 80% of people actually agree with 90% of the issues and topics out there. And time again, I saw that over and over and over. It's pretty basic. People want to know that they can put food on their table. People want to know that they can keep a roof over their head. People want to know that they're going to be safe. People want to know that they can actually go out there freely, do what they want, how they want. And most importantly, people want to know that their children are going to have a future. And so this is something that once we get, and I have to say, we are definitely in spiritual warfare. And I say to people, as painful as this is, and we do have a rough road still ahead of us, this is absolutely necessary. And I do have people crying sometimes saying, we're doomed, we're screwed, we can't get through this. This is so terrible. I can't believe things have gotten so bad. And I have to say to them, what do you mean they've gotten so bad? They've always been this bad. It was just hidden. You couldn't see Oz behind the curtain. And now we're seeing all the ills, we're seeing all the evil, we're seeing all the different ways that they have kept us enslaved, and in a system without our knowing and without our consent. So I just simply want to leave it with this. We are going to win, because there's always a seed of destruction planted within evil, and we are actually watching it destroy itself. And then what we need to do is we need to come back once all of these slave systems are dismantled. We will have no other option but to rebuild and to restore and to heal the planet and to heal ourselves first, as you were saying, Athena, and come from that perspective. We will have no other option but to build local economies, not on resource extraction and raping the planet, but healing the watershed, healing the trees, healing the soil, healing the pollinators, and bringing life back to what we hold so valuable. So with that, I just simply want to say my favorite Indigenous saying, which is, give thanks to unknown blessings already on their way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
thank you.
Thank you so much, Raynette. I love that. I think it's so important, that my favorite quote is, be the change you want to see, right? We can't expect all of this to happen on the outside. We have to make the change ourselves. And it just comes with the very small changes that we make in our daily lives. Everything that Raynette said is so important. And that is where we can hold the power. What are we doing in our everyday action steps? That's what counts. So we do have an unknown speaker on the call. His name is Joseph. I'm guessing just going to wrap it up. Should we just? Okay. No, but he has the link. So, Joseph, are you there? Just in case. Otherwise, we're going to just wrap the call up. Oh, that doesn't sound very fun. Okay, we're going to wrap it up. I just want to say thank you so much to everybody on this call for being here, for being present here. It really is your attention and your energy that is feeding this movement. And that is something that I'm really passionate about with Gaia Warriors, is to film the solutions, because there are so many solutions. I mean, there's solutions about how to eat up plastic, how to clean up the oceans, how to fix our soils. There's amazing warriors and heroes around the planet that are doing amazing things. And I want to share all of their stories, because the more that we hear about these solutions, the more we'll feel inspired to create them, to adopt them, to share these stories. And the more we put our energy into these solutions and stories and positive news, that's how we create this timeline of heaven on earth. So please keep joining us and tuning in, Gaia Warriors, on all of social media, and you'll see inspiring content so we can stop counterbalancing this fear narrative media that's really just causing so much distress on the planet. So thank you all for joining me today. I'm so activated and inspired by all of your stories, and I hope to continue checking in with all of you. So much love. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here.
Everyone. Thank you.
Aho.
Thank you.
Aho.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.